What's up? Welcome. We are finally going to do a Buffy stream. We talked about doing this for a long time. We've decided to finally do it. We did have a boiler room a while back, if you recall, where we kind of got into some themes, some of the best Buffys, but we didn't really get deep into the episodes. And so we did an X-Files. We got to do X-Files Junior, which is another way to describe Buffy the Vampire Slayer. Now, as a bit of a preface, I wasn't expecting to like this show. I thought it was going to be really dumb. I'm Jay Dyer of Jay's Analysis. This is Jamie, my wife, and we are going to do an analysis of the top 10 episodes of Buffy the Vampire Slayer, the motifs, the symbols, the cults, and believe it or not, it actually, I think, kicked off the vampire craze of the 2000s and the 2010s.
Oh! Buffy falls into the category for me of like teenage paranormal romance, and this was a big genre that came out in a wave in the 90s.
Well, remember the movie, and Joss Whedon did do the movie, that was 1992 or 3.
Yeah.
So that was prior to Harry Potter. It was prior to all of this stuff. Yeah. So I think, Twilight, Harry Potter, what's another one? What's another famous, horrible thing we were subjected to in the 2000s?
Underworld? Vampire? Remember that one?
No, True Blood. I haven't seen True Blood. Maybe it's good. I don't know. I've never watched that.
True Blood was okay.
Okay. But see, we wouldn't have had any of those without Buffy. Now, there's good and bad here. This is not a one-sided thing. We're going to try to get into all the elements and the angles that we can here. But the assessment is not totally positive and not totally negative. It's definitely elements of propaganda. They do a big Skittles switch, as I'm sure everybody knows, in season 4 or 5. That takes a turn. But they baited you. They got you hooked in, right, for many seasons. And then they took a Skittles turn. But this really solidified probably the career. Now, maybe the movie did. I don't know how successful the movie was. But this really solidified the career of Joss Whedon. Right. Now, I know there's always been vampire movies, but I'm talking about like a really popular phenomenon geared towards, as you said, vampire romance,
paranormal romance.
Yeah.
It blew me away when I saw that heading in Barnes and Noble that it was enough of a thing that it had its own section, teen paranormal romance.
Now, our buddy Kotel, Church of the Eternal Logos, he just did a stream, as you guys probably saw, about Tim Leary. That was good. I just watched that. But he also did a stream on vampires, and that was a great stream for the symbolism of the vampire. So what we're going to be talking about definitely ties into that. There is the Francis Ford Coppola Dracula installment, but those are adult geared movies, right? This was a specifically teen oriented.
This was
X-Files for teens.
This was our Twilight, right?
This is our time.
Our Twilight.
This is our time.
Buffy and me are...
You're quoting Sean Astin from...
We're almost exactly the same years. I mean, her high school years would have been my graduating
Yes,
year.
well, this is why I never watched this show. Exactly, is because this show came out my senior year, and, I was doing cool things. I wasn't watching TV shows. So I was cool out with cool kids, smoking cool cigarettes, and cool things. And you were at home watching TV shows. Mm-hmm. Because you were a band geek or something, right?
I was watching shows with cool kids at home.
The band geeks were the cool kids.
We stay home and have fun.
The cool kids are the band geeks in her mind.
Yeah.
Anyway, but it is fun.
The homeschoolers.
Exactly. It is fun to go back and watch this show for all of the 90s nostalgia, right? Mm-hmm. The member berries.
90s. Yeah, 90s transitioning into 2000s.
Member Jinkos. Member Fat.
Yeah.
PJT. Yo, those jeans are fat, dog. Member Limp Biscuit.
Buffy had its own lexicon almost. It launched a new way of
It did.
speaking
In fact,
and making up words and.
There's a lot of different angles and elements to the show. I didn't even realize the show was studied by academics because of that, of its the lingo that it created on its own. And you'll actually notice a lot of the lingo and the weirdness went into kind of millennial era patterns. For example, the irregular pauses before speaking.
They almost all of them do that.
They all do that, right? And just there's bizarre, I don't even know what to call it, just intonations, cadences that definitely, I think, influenced a lot of the early 2000s, coming of age around that time, millennial age people, like my younger brother, and
a lot of
he didn't watch the show, but that period.
Making up words and portmanteaus, and they all like to do that.
So that is an interesting angle to the show that I noticed a little bit the first time I'd watched it a few years ago, and then you and I recently rewatched the show, and it kind of came to the fore more in the recent installments. Now, as I said, I didn't know what to expect watching this show. Jamie talked me into it. I was like, that's gonna be dumb. I thought it was like a worse version of Twilight or something. I thought it was like I don't know. I thought it was Twilight. I was like, why would I'm not going to watch that. And so, no, it's more of a goofy thing. I was like, well, now Joss Whedon is obviously an establishment creature. So
Dollhouse.
But he has these plots that were very conspiratorial in the 90s and 2000s. And they would include a lot of themes, not just of the esoteric and the occult and Buffy, but you said Dollhouse?
Yeah, Joss Whedon did Dollhouse, which is MK
right,
Ultra
with exactly. That's an MK Ultra alter assassin with Elijah Dushku, who's also in Buffy.
Yeah.
Anyway, so there's a lot of those weird cultural elements, and as we're going to see, many of the episodes were predictive in curious ways. Right, certain kinds of, shall we say, dark trench coat clad teen at school type events, if you know that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
There's one of those. There's some Silicon Valley elements that were ahead of the time that are now coming to reality with the villains of the final season are the nerds.
And that's interesting. One of the villains, I just thought about this, is the place itself, because she lives on the Hellmouth. And I grew up in Hemet, which is like a
it's a literal hellmouth.
Hot mouth.
One time we went there, it was 117 degrees, and I threw up in the bathtub. In a cold bathtub. It was so hot I threw up. It's a hellmouth.
He's better now.
That was like 4 years ago. I hope so. All right, so let's get into this.
Before we start doing the episodes, I want to remind everyone that we did a really good show on Britney and her conservatorship on Rockfin.
Yes.
So go over there and check that out. It was really good.
So you can sign up for Rockfin there in the chat. That's free. There's the link. And we also did a really long 2.5 hour stream with Tristan on Vatican abuse. So we went deep into that for 2.5 hours. And if you sign up on Rockfin, the great thing is that you get access to everybody. So you can go watch the stream with us and the stream that I did with Tristan on that and many, many other streams.
Okay. You want to talk episodes specifically? That'll be fun.
Yeah, I just got my braided belt, dog. It's looped down, hanging forward on my Jinko jeans. And I got a giant chain going from my wallet to my... Where do those chains even go? So people don't steal your wallet.
A snap on your
it's a snap
loop,
on?
and then you put it in your... Yes.
And that's so that if they grab your wallet, like they grab you.
Mm-hmm.
I got my doesn't seem like that would really work.
Nude lip liner. That looks bad on everyone.
You got to do the
butterfly clip.
The other thing is the really super skinny
eyebrows,
dude. You got to pluck it all out.
Everything was skinny in that era. Skinny jeans, like low-waisted hip huggers. Very
whoever came up with the idea that we need to see all the girls like they are plumbers is a stupid idea, right?
Yeah.
Like, let's show just the top of the butt crack of all the girls. That'd be so hot, dude.
That was definitely in there. So I think one of the best episodes of the whole show had the creepiest creatures. was season 4. These are all in no particular order, so
we need to go ahead and get started on it.
Yeah, we're going to be going through some specific episodes and not
themes and
in
motifs.
any order.
Right.
But my favorite was called Hush, season 4, episode 10. You remember that one?
Mm-hmm.
With the gentleman?
Yes, these are good villains.
Mm-hmm.
Again, Joss Whedon can write good stories. He has written good stories.
He thinks of creepy things, for sure.
He does.
Yeah.
And this one is one of the best episodes. It's on most people's list, by the way.
Yeah.
So go ahead.
This is smack in the middle of season 4, which is her college year, where she's dating Riley. And she
all her boyfriends are cringe, man. They're the worst.
That's one of the themes, is like Buffy is never allowed to be happy. Mm-hmm. She thinks she can get a little bit of freedom, a little bit of rest, a little bit of normalcy, and it's like taken away from her every time.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess they did that on purpose. Just
well, it makes her character more interesting. I mean, that's kind of a superhero thing, right? They can't have love like normal people have it. Right. Because they have this higher calling, they have a duty. With much power comes much responsibility.
He says that.
Right? I said with much revenue comes much propaganda. It's a better way to put it in terms of Spider-Man, I guess. But so Buffy. So and if you don't know, it's basically the thing that was such a good idea was let's take Van Helsing and make Van Helsing a goofy, ditzy, blonde cheerleader. That's what that's a genius idea for a show, mm-hmm. and it worked.
Yeah,
that's crazy.
Because of the contrast of a little skinny girl standing up to ultimate evil mm-hmm. is a fun thing to watch.
Mm-hmm.
So she's got her battles inside and out, and her teacher is a deep state scientist in this season. Season 4, remember? Professor
Walsh, who looks like Riley in the face.
Look
Riley. Exactly the same.
Yeah.
Both goober faces, but
there is a deep underground base under the
we're going to get to this later, but there's some really weird themes. And by the way, many universities are secretly level 4 bioweapons labs, and they do have underground bases. In fact, I know about universities that have special laboratories underneath the university. So that does exist. And so as we're watching this goofy show, I'm like, there's all of these bizarre themes, right? And in that very season, Riley is specifically put into a behavioral modification program where they put a chip in. They put a chip in him in terms to regulate his heart, but it's also a tracking and behavior modification chip, which regulates all these chemicals that he's pumped into him as a special operations soldier. At the same time as Spike has an experimental chip in his brain, which regulates and modifies his behavior so he's not violent anymore. Mm-hmm. So here we are in the midst of this goofy season, and there's this underground base and all this crazy stuff going on. So, yes, that was all there unexpectedly.
Yeah. They're part of this initiative, which is a super black ops program to catch demons and use their demonic powers to build a super demon.
And there's real precedent for that
Plus
as
AI.
well, in the sense that the CIA Stanford research did a lot of experimentations into the occult.
Yeah.
So the Project Stargate, there's the New Republic article that talks about the CIA and the government getting into and studying the occult. This plays into Phoenix program with creating the serial killer. So this is all real stuff, and I mean, nobody in the 90s knew this, so I don't know if there were CIA Pentagon consultants on the show, if Joss Whedon knew this stuff, if he was in some kind of esoteric society to know this stuff. I don't know. But something like that is going on.
Yeah. So the creepy gentlemen come to town and everyone loses their voice. And the town is quarantined because of they say it's a FLU.
The coof.
Yeah. FLU.
Coof.
Mm-hmm. Stabs.
Yeah, right.
And that's what the public is told is going on, but it's actually a supernatural event that's happening, and they're trying to cover it up with that.
I can't.
Right?
I'm listening. Go ahead. I'm trying to show people this article so they won't accuse me of being a faked out lying piece of crap. You a liar, boy. You lying over there making up stuff. I'm not making it up. Look, there you go. Boom. Go ahead.
Okay. But did you hear what I said?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. The gentleman needs 7 hearts. It's just your typical beat the demon movie.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, episode, but...
It's the monster of the week, right? Like in
Yeah.
X-Files, you have monsters of the week episodes.
Yeah.
Right.
So this episode actually is where Tara and Willow meet in their Wiccan club and have their narrative.
So another thing we should point out is that one thing that was really a propaganda ahead of its time element was the promotion of Wicca and Wiccan philosophy and clubs in the late 90s to teenagers.
Mm-hmm.
So that wasn't really, that I recall, you know, that. I mean, there was a couple instances. There was that stupid Sandra Bullock movie with Nicole Kidman and what was it called?
Practical Magic.
Practical Magic, and wasn't there like one or two? There was Charmed with Rose McGowan.
Yeah.
And then this, but I've never watched Charmed. I don't know anything about it other than it had Rose McGowan, I think. But this at times would get into some pretty sophisticated themes and elements that you wouldn't expect in most shows of this market,
Yeah.
right?
Tara and Willow have to combine their Wicca powers to help, and then their screams make their head pop.
Yeah. So I don't remember much about this episode other than basically they're just monsters of the week, and then it's interesting to see everyone's reaction when they lose their speech.
Mm-hmm.
How weird it is to lose an entire sound. They basically aren't. Well, they can still hear, right? But but no one can convey. So everybody's just wearing like whiteboards around their neck. They got the boomer whiteboard like I got, and they have to write everything out. Anyway, it's just an interesting, unique villain type of episode. So.
Yeah.
And we do begin to see the promotion of, you know, Wiccan thought. And Wicca is, by the way, for those that don't know, it's not a real ancient religion. It was basically concocted by Gerald Gardner, who had gone through the ranks of Crowley's cult. And once he graduated Crowley's cult, he created his own cult, which is usually what happens. Mm-hmm. So that's where you get Wicca. And really the irony, which is that it's supposed to be this feminist empowering thing, Gerald Gardner just wanted to get a bunch of chicks naked and slap their butts in the woods. Literally. That's what he did.
I know.
A lot of cults is just a front for coomers, dude. Did you not know this? Anyway.
Who think that they're God.
Right. Yes, there are other. That's The Craft, Witches of Eastwick. I know
Craft, that's the one.
there's other movies, yes, but
American Horror Story. What? Which episodes were actually decent?
But this is 90s, right? So we're back way ahead of that trend.
Yeah.
So, all right, what's next?
Season 6, episode 12, Double Meat Palace.
I really like this one. Any episodes making fun of fast food.
It's a very X-Files-y.
It is. It's much like Chaco Chicken, one of the best X-Files.
Well, in this one, Buffy is having to be a wage slave because her mom has passed away. And now she has to take care of herself and her sister, and she has to get a job and grow up and learn real life and kill demons at the same time. Yeah,
there's this the irony of the Slayer being this Van Helsing hero who has to also work the what do you call it, at the front of the fast food place. Cashier at a fast food place. Mm-hmm. The irony of that. But I also like the critiques of consumerism. So I will give some of these episodes. There's a couple actually pretty humorous, satirical episodes where in this one it's critiquing the fake food and the consumer culture as it applies to food, making food into this low quality, cheap, just, cut and paste type of thing. But there's also the episode of the vampires who try to mass market blood, which they try to turn blood into a mass marketed consumer thing. Remember that one? Mm-hmm. So he does at times have these interesting social critiques in his shows, and this is a good element of that one.
So in this one, the fast food employees act really weird, and she can't figure out why the corporations see people as commodities.
Yes, exactly.
Right, is what they're trying to say.
Well, and they all act weird, and they undergo this like ritual processing and mind control.
They're brainwashed by the training,
right? And they have to go through this weird corporate training process, and they watch all these videos about meat production, and it grosses everybody out. And shocker, we later find out that
it's not even meat.
It's not real meat. So they were pushing fake meat beyond burgers way back in, I don't know, this is probably 2003, 4.
Yeah.
Way before anybody knew what Beyond Meat was.
Yeah.
And here
that was the secret.
That's the secret of this whole chain of what was it was called?
Double Meat Palace.
So they don't use any meat.
Yeah.
It's all synthetic, fake ingredients, and everybody's falling for this. And it happens to be run by this Borg hive-minded alien demon entity that sucks your brains out. Mm-hmm. So that was a clever episode.
Yeah. Let's see. Season 3.
Okay.
Episode 9. Wish. Do you remember that one? Anya appears. This is the one where it's like, what if Buffy never came to Sunnydale?
Kinda. Alternate reality.
Anya appears.
Oh, man, I can't wear this stupid coat, man. It makes me sneeze. They have to be cleaned, and they can't be cleaned.
Because the chemicals.
It's hot in here. Anyway, go ahead.
You want to turn on the air?
It is on.
Oh.
Go.
Okay. Well, this is just a what if episode. Like, what if Buffy never came?
Alternate universe.
Alternate universe. Yeah.
But usually I don't like those, but this one is pretty good.
Yeah. So this is the first time we see Anya. She's comes back later more in the seasons, but this is like her.
Who is a demon who's now a human?
She was a demon, a vengeance demon for scorned women.
Mm-hmm. Now, if you don't know, the world of Buffy the Vampire Slayer is based around, again, almost like a Van Helsing meets mythology worldview. Mm-hmm. So there's a lot of things that aren't realistic, obviously, but the logic of this universe is such that basically there are demons that are attempting to get access to this world. And so they do that through these hell mouths, and they happen to be in weird places like Sunnydale, which is the murder capital of the world, which makes us think of Lost Boys. I think there is a kind of passing nod to Lost Boys, right, in Santa Cruz, Santa Clara. But it also appears to be very similar to Santa Barbara, mm-hmm. that is Sunnydale. Mm-hmm. The shots of the exterior of the city, some of the funny locations appear to be Santa Barbara.
So in this universe, the Master, which is this final boss she had to beat.
Yeah, basically each season has a boss.
He's still alive, and he's doing a mass production of corporate blood.
Yeah, that's the one I was thinking of.
And they're doing like evil communion.
Yeah, it's like a demonic, satanic, version of communion.
Vampires have taken the humans and they're
they've got on an assembly line.
Yeah, on an assembly line. So. And
Joss Whedon is critiquing consumerism again that mm-hmm. makes humans into just basically products.
Yeah.
By the way, you can leave a super chat via Streamlabs there in the Streamlabs link if you want to ask something, and shout out to the super chats that we already got. We'll get those here in a moment, but yeah, I think what's surprising is that you'll be watching this extremely goofy show, and then you will have these periodic things thrown in that are pretty wildly satanic or obscure occult things. For example, Crowley pops up, as mentioned in a couple episodes. You get references to pretty obscure texts at times, magicians, ancient texts. You get references to, you get a whole episode about a demonic cult that was requiring human sacrifice with the all-seeing eye. So there's all these things that you don't expect, right, to come out of this teen show.
Well, do you expect a Moloch in your computer?
This was, again, one of the predictive elements, which was that there's this pretty prophetic discussion between Giles and everyone else about the role of the internet. So that Sunnydale suddenly gets modernized, and they get the internet, and they get this Mrs. Calendar, who's a techno-pagan.
She's a teacher.
She's a cyberpunk, right, and she's the computer teacher.
So this is season 1, episode 8.
So this is 97.
iRobot Eugene. And they're introducing computers to the high school.
Right.
And they're having all the smartest kids flock right to the computers. Like Willow, she's supposed to be one of the smartest. Now she is beginning to become part of this techno-pagan thing that the teacher introduces.
Right, and this one guy gets really wrapped up, and he basically is obsessed with the internet. And it basically programs him, right? So that there's this program that starts telling him what to do. It's kind of intending on getting him to kill other students, namely Buffy. So that this is hinting at like trench coat level school events.
Yeah, and there's one that is even more
right.
like that.
We'll get to that in a minute.
But they're saying if you're not jacked in, you're not alive.
Oh, that's what I was going to say. There's this amazing conversation way ahead of its time where Giles is talking to the rest of the crew, and he says, I'm afraid of the internet. I don't know what this is going to do. We're going to lose our love for books. Buffy. Is that pretty good?
Yeah.
That's a pretty good Giles. All right, I got it. Buffy. So Giles is worried that, because he's a book nerd, he's basically Buffy's handler. More literally, he's called her.
Watcher.
Yeah, but he's her handler.
Yeah.
He's like her intelligence handler. He's from British intelligence, more or less, which is bizarre. But, he says that the internet is going to destroy language, destroy society. Nobody will read books. And he says we will be dumbed down and programmed. This is a really profound, way ahead of its time, and accurately predictive episode. It's called iRobot Eugene, season 1, episode 8. Yeah, this one is worth watching.
So,
and by the way, it's Moloch, which is interesting.
Well, Willow is scanning the books to input them into the computer, and she accidentally downloads a demon from an ancient spellbook. Right. And
right. So there's a level of absurdity here, right?
And he's catfishing her, acting like a boy that's her age, that's into her.
And demons on the web.
Yeah.
Right? Moms on the net.
Mind controlling the
demons
nerds.
on the net. Well, the nerds get programmed.
Yeah.
Right? And that's actually the nerds that are hinted at here. And there's actually one nerd, Jonathan, who pops up in season 1 even, who will be one of the villains in the final season, predicting essentially Silicon Valley nerds being future great villains. I mean, this is pretty wild.
Evil magic villains.
And they actually hatch a plot to create sex bots. This is pretty wild stuff.
But back in season 1, there's just introducing cameras everywhere, so Moloch can see all of the kids.
He's like an NSA demon. Like he's got a back door into everything. He sees everything. Right. Yeah. Forgot about that.
So he is, to the boys he's making killers, and to the girls he's chatting Willow up, trying to get her to do things for him.
What was he trying to do with Willow? I don't remember. Because he just basically mind controls that
all
one
it
nerd.
wants is your love.
But it kind of predicts the ability of shady, unknown weirdos on the internet to catfish and basically, get people provoke people, provocateur, honey trap people on the internet.
So he created he convinces the incels to kill the girls.
Yes, that's what yes, and that, by the way, it is implied this guy is an INCEL. Yeah, exactly.
But he promises love, power, and knowledge, and he wants to be worshipped.
Right, so the demons in the realm of Buffy are kind of like the Keys of Solomon type of demons. Like, you can get different things from different demons, but they require certain sacrifices, right? Some of them want human sacrifices, etc.
Mm-hmm. And so Giles is saying it's creating a society where everyone can be manipulated, and they're like, "Oh, you're just a Luddite."
That's what he said. Yeah, so they were dissing him.
Meanwhile, Moloch is controlling everyone through the technologies.
Right. Yeah. And again, Giles was totally right. Very good. I believe this is going to destroy humanity. Buffy.
Yeah.
Buffy.
I've been knocked out, Buffy.
Yeah. Giles always gets knocked out in every episode.
Yeah. So Moloch the Corruptor, the internet corrupts Robo-Moloch and AI demon.
Yeah, so he's Skynet. It's an AI demon thing. Yeah, and again, interesting that he's called Moloch the Corruptor, and Moloch, of course, was a deity that required human sacrifice. And in the plot, the warning is that Moloch the demon, aka working the internet, will corrupt all of society. It has done that.
Yeah. And look how much violence it promotes to girls.
What do you mean?
Violence for boys to do to girls. The internet does.
I'm not sure that's a big thing on the internet. I don't know what you mean.
So season 3, episode 1. Do you remember?
I think that the widespread promotion of PRON is a thing to destroy society. We know that. And
BDSM and all that kind of.
Oh, that kind of stuff definitely is a degenerator for sure.
And I think the vampire love stories is a part of that because it teaches girls that like he'll hurt you if he loves you and all the like messes with their head, you know. Like it's okay if you're dating a deranged killer if he's obsessed with you.
Well, in the serial killer series, a lot of the late 90s, early 2000s serial killers were into all those BDSM chat groups, and they would find people through those. So Bobby Burdella, the Toy Box Killer, I'm sure the other ones too. So yeah, there's definitely there's totally a demonic element to all that BDSM stuff.
Buffy dates her vampire. Her first love is a vampire. Twilight, those, you know, the teen paranormal romance is getting girls used to accepting demonic behavior. And the other way around, boys fall for their Jezebel or whatever too. There's girl vampires.
But boys don't like Twilight. We're not into that. We don't care about sparkly Robert Pattinson's.
Do you remember the one where they are kidnapping homeless?
This one is great. This is cults on the streets of LA and Skid Row, bringing them in and mind controlling the hobos. Yes, I do remember this.
Season 3, episode 1, called Anne. So Buffy's traumatized from having to kill Angel. And why does she have to kill Angel? Because she gave it up to Angel. And
so Angel is one of Buffy's cringe boyfriends. She has
all
2.
All of Buffy's boyfriends are cringe.
Okay, but one of the really cringe too.
Her first love. So she's 16 and he's 100 and whatever. And that's not creepy at all, right? But he loves her.
Oh, I didn't even think about that. That's like an underage thing, isn't it? Yeah.
And so he's like, I can't love you, but I do. So it creates this like our love is forbidden, and you know how people fall for that kind of juju, right? So she had to kill him because he turned evil because they slept together, and he had one moment of pure. It's a really stupid storyline, but
that is dumb. But what's interesting about this episode isn't that there's nothing worse than the whole Angel and Riley storylines, and
except for
Willow and Tara. Those are the worst things of this show. It's unbearable. I skip through those scenes now. It's just torture. But the other elements make the show, fun and at times entertaining. The first time I watched it, I didn't think.
But this is Buffy's deflowering, and it turns him demonic.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
Good point.
So now she's fighting with Mom and Giles, and that always happens to kids when they start to
get frisky.
They get mouthy, like
sass
mouth. Like they act like adults.
Sass
like I
mouth.
know what's going on.
Hush now. Hush that sass.
I've learned the secrets of adulthood. She runs away to a city and gets a job as a waitress in an apartment on Skid Row.
Right. And that's hilarious on its own, right? Like, here's just this blonde chick, looks like a head of the cheerleading squad walking around, sauntering around Skid Row. This is totally implausible, right? But it's TV world. The interesting thing about this is the cult that's a front for demons. So there's this mind control cult that this guy tries to recruit.
As a mission.
It's a mission. Yeah. It's something like the Fellowship of Hope or something like that. And he tries to recruit Buffy. Turns out it's a demon cult that is sapping energy from hobos or something.
No, it's
Garmin Bozu.
They force them to work in an inexplicable mind situation.
Oh, they have an underground. It's like a Scientology like slave camp.
Yeah.
Yes.
So Buffy keeps noticing all the homeless people are like, "I'm no one. I'm no one."
Yeah, and they're disappearing in their mind control.
Yeah. So they've been down in the pit for 100 years or whatever, and then they release them, and now they're hobos.
So the reason there's crazy hobos
is
because
they've kids and ages them way faster than they should be through the demonic activity.
Having to work. Yeah, you having to work down there for the thuggy.
Yeah.
Right.
I have heard of.
I've heard the stories of the thuggy.
Yeah.
I have vowed never again in my kingdom. The Maharaja of Panko, Zalim Singh.
Does the Maharaja
have a wife?
Yeah.
Maybe he hasn't met the right girl. That's Temple of Doom for those that don't know.
Yeah, so in this episode, all the kids get down, chink, chink, chink. They work their whole life away and get
sand.
spit out.
I don't like the sand.
It's coarse.
It's coarse and gets down everywhere. Anyway, go ahead.
It's irritating. That is what a evil teenager would talk like. I don't like the sand.
No doubt.
So Buffy kicks their demon butts like she always does and decides to get the heck out of Skid Row. Right?
Yeah. But again, the theme here, demonic cults using mind-controlling hobos.
And of course, Buffy had to run away because Boomer Joyce...
Oh, I forgot. Buffy's mom is an archetypal, annoying, oblivious boomer mom.
Yeah. Self-absorbed. Like, I have to reinvent myself and find myself, and
eat, pray, love.
She can't handle the reality of the spiritual warfare that Buffy's up against, and
she's totally oblivious. So she even finds out, and then is totally still oblivious.
Yeah.
But I don't know if Joss Whedon literally understood boomers to be to have this tendency, or if it just happened to be that way. Yeah. I don't know, but it's interesting. But Joyce is an archetypal boomer mom, for sure. She's totally momcore.
Yeah, Joyce is momcore. Giles is handlercore. The Watchers are like British intelligence.
Yeah, that's what I said.
And the criminal underworld is connected to the occult underworld.
This is a great insight, too, in season 3, is the mafia criminal underworld pops in to Sunnydale, and they have a deal with the mayor, who is a Satanist who has made pacts with Satan. So the mayor of Sunnydale, the governmental
has been so for 100 years.
Has
somehow.
been but the point is that it's like the governmental structure is satanic, right?
Yeah.
And he has control of the principal, who's not overtly satanic. He's just an idiot, right? But basically, the school board, run by the mayor, is satanic, and he hates Buffy and he wants to get her killed. So there's some interesting themes there. And then he teams up with organized crime. Organized crime brings in hitmen to try to kill Buffy. Right? So it's like, it gets crazier and crazier and crazier. And then the organized crime is teamed up with the demons at one point. Mm-hmm. Right? Mm-hmm. And one of the rogue buddies of Giles, who's that guy, Ethan, I think.
Oh, yeah.
One of the apostate watchers or handlers, right? Who becomes an organized crime figure. Mm-hmm. But is this the episode where they require human sacrifice? That one's pretty crazy.
No, the next one we were going to talk about was in that time frame, season 3, episode 5, Homecoming. So it's class of 98. So that should make all you guys a little nostalgic. Class of 98. right?
I'm
Long time
97,
ago.
so.
Buffy gets dumped before homecoming. She tries to run for homecoming. Queen Mayor
Is dumped by Angel?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
The mayor is in league with the demons. Xander and Willow are flirting and kissing. And all the demon bounty hunters are coming for Buffy.
Oh, this is the organized crime element where they bring in the assassins, right? I remember this part.
And the nerds are the villains in Silicon Valley.
Wait, they pop up in this episode?
Yeah, somehow. It's written down. This is the one where Buffy and Cordelia have to fight the bounty hunters.
Oh, I remember. One of the guys that's the assassin, they hire a guy from the NSA to track Buffy. That's it. And he's got all this high-tech stuff, and he's sending these Black Ops people. Oh,
is he using the nerds, too?
Yes. So the NSA is using nerds, and there's this tracker guy who's using and sending the Black Ops people to try to kill Buffy. That's what it was, which was weird because there's all this high-tech surveillance. And, again, this is 1999. Season 3 will be about 99. Yeah. So not many people knew about the NSA in 1999, but interestingly, the NSA pops up in quite a few 90s TV shows, right? It's mentioned extensively in the X-Files. Comes up, I'm sure, in other show. Enemy of the State comes up in the movie Sneakers. So they were interjecting the NSA into all these movies and TV shows. 99.9% of the population had never heard of the NSA.
Right. Enemy of the State, that's what I was thinking about.
All right, so now we're beginning to see that the show, which is, again, this goofy teen show, is interjecting organized crime, British intelligence handlers.
Politics.
And again, Buffy is, if we understand Giles as a kind of British intelligence handler, then Buffy is like an assassin. Mm-hmm. I mean, the Slayer is basically an assassin. Mm-hmm. So they're recruiting a teenage cheerleader to be an assassin. Now, there's the mystical element of her being a chosen Slayer. but again, just from the angle of like the relationship between how Giles has to answer back to his coterie of other British intelligence watchers. I mean, why are they all British guys? Mm-hmm. That's never explained, right?
Right. Well, at one point, she has to break free from them because they are abusing her.
Right. Yeah, well, they put her through these different trials and these different, like, mind-controlled sort of tests that she has to go through.
Mm-hmm. So, did you like the one where...
What's next?
Joyce sees the children killed with the occult symbols and she organizes a Moms Against Occult.
Moo?
Yeah. So this is season 3, episode 11, Gingerbread.
Has Joyce realized who Buffy is at this point or not?
Yes.
Okay, so she knows Buffy fights demons.
Yes, and so she's like, I want to help too. So she gets her own...
Right. Now, the problem with this is that this episode is propaganda because it portrays people opposed to witchcraft and Wicca as these evil, repressed Christian types, right?
Or just ineffectual,
dumb boomers, right? I mean, Buffy's mom is not actually a Christian. She doesn't ever say who she is. She's just this concerned, idiot boomer parent. Mm-hmm. And so she tries to fight the occult, right? Which ends in who gets accused of witchcraft. It's like a Salem.
It gets them almost burned at the stake.
Yeah, but who?
Because
Willow?
There's this Willow, Buffy, and another girl named Amy. Because the mom gets all the local authorities against all occult witchcraft. Mm-hmm. And now there's a witch hunt at the high school.
Yeah, and one of the things that the show does from a propaganda standpoint is develop the storyline of Willow, who is this, pioneer Wicca character. And we're supposed to like and empathize with Willow. Willow, of course, becomes a Skittles character by season 4 or 5. Mm-hmm. And again, so we've got the promotion of Wicca, the promotion of Skittles,
right,
after 4 or 5 seasons of following the story.
So this is another one against...
And that's my chief critique of this show, is that it is propaganda for Wicca at that point and Skittles by season 4 and 5.
Yes. And also, Willow's mom is some kind of academic psychologist, and she doesn't even get her own daughter. So this is like an episode about how ineffectual parents are.
Oh, that's
in
right.
Helping fight this.
Right. Well, her mom is a neglect. She totally neglects Willow.
Yeah.
And everything that she believes is scientism. Yes. So Willow's mom represents scientism.
Yeah. And she's like, I don't care if you do your little thing, because she doesn't believe in it. Right? She's just psychoanalyzing Willow and not being a mom.
Yeah, well, she views her daughter like a science project.
Yes.
And there's no love there. And so even though I don't support the show's propaganda, we can see that the neglect of and loss of parenthood in terms of Willow and Xander, they both turn out to be not very successful human beings. I mean, Xander is basically a loser. I mean, yeah, he gets a job as a carpenter or something, but he can't marry. He runs off, right? Because he has the opportunity to marry Anya. He can't do it. And then Willow ends up evil. She turns to the dark arts. She becomes a sorceress. And I think she's redeemed at the end, isn't she? At the very end of the show.
Yeah, she has to quit the magic because her revenge got too dark, and she was trying to kill the nerds with her dark magic.
Right. So she becomes this super demonic character, which is interesting because you don't expect it to go that route.
Yeah, because she's like, Willow.
I mean, Buffy. A lot of the dialogue and the characters are so cringe, you probably won't be able to stand this show. So I'm not recommending everybody watch this show. Again, there's good and bad elements to the show.
Yeah. So this one has a Hansel and Gretel fairy tale element to it. The
Which one are we on?
It's called Gingerbread.
Oh yeah, I didn't. Yeah. That one was kind of stupid.
Okay, how about Buffy is infected with demon goo and gains mind reading powers?
Earshot.
Yeah.
Oh, this is the famous school trench coat episode.
Yes.
So we have and this is not me. This has been written about by many people. Let me find this article. I shared it on Twitter, but if you guys didn't see it, this is a fascinating element here to this episode. I think it was a Screen Rant or yes, here it is. So this episode was apparently pulled by the network. And it was written and produced prior to the events. It was so similar to some events that transpired. You can read about that yourself, because I can't really talk about that on this platform. But this episode includes one of the famous nerds who will be one of the villains in the final season, goes up into the Sunnydale High School clock tower. So this is just like Charles Whitman, one of the famous serial killers, in the clock tower at Austin, at the University of UT Austin, who was up there with a sniper. Now, in this episode, Buffy is able to basically talk him down, Jonathan, the nerd. But this actually comes up late. The fact that she does this actually affects what happens later on when Jonathan becomes one of the main villains in the final season. But yes, this is a curiously predictive episode.
So she's got her mind reading powers, and now she can hear all like the perverted and the hopeless and the private thoughts of all her high school students.
It's like that Mel Gibson movie, What Women Want, when he can hear the thoughts of women.
Yeah, but it's too much, so it's starting to like drive her crazy. But she hears of a can you say that?
Well, it's Jonathan has no, she's not Jonathan, because she hears somebody planning to get rid of all the students.
Yes, but she can't figure out who, because it's in a big crowd.
Right, and so she thinks it's Jonathan, and we think it's Jonathan, and then there's enough of a theme to present it, but turns out Jonathan says, "Oh no, I was going up into the clock tower to commit suicide." Mm-hmm. And then
it's actually the lunch lady.
And then it turns out it was the lunch lady that was going to poison everybody through the lunch food, which is kind of funny.
Right.
High school cafeteria food was weird and bizarre and not very good. Except, like, for some reason, you'd be really hungry. And the chicken nuggets and the mashed potatoes and gravy was somehow really, really just... You would just crave it.
No.
Even the pizza, like, it was shit pizza, but for some reason, like, you craved it. I think you're just so hungry by the time of lunch.
Well, this episode is one with Wesley Wyndham-Pryce in it.
Yeah, so basically they bring in young Giles. I mean, this dude is like a carbon copy of Giles.
And he's creeping on Cordelia the whole time. Yeah.
Okay. So we can't, I don't think we can say much more about that one, but have we done 5? Are we about halfway?
Yeah,
or where are we at?
We can be done soon.
Are we doing all of them, or are we doing a half and half?
Oh, if you want to do half and half, we need to stop now.
Okay. Yeah. So if you're a big Buffy fan, you can come on over to the website for the second half.
I was having too much fun.
Well, it is a fun show to dissect. It's again, it's a little less mature than some of the other shows. But it does have, as we said, a lot of themes of imp culture, a lot of themes of the occult, Satanism, a lot of Crowleyan elements. I think really the ethos of this show is Crowleyan. It had a lot of cultural programming ahead of its time, especially in terms of Skittles. A couple other things. Well, I'll save all that for the part 2 because I've got some other impressions and stupid things I want to talk about, but we'll save that for part 2. But we did get some nice little super chats here. You want to read that one?
Okay.
Go ahead.
I can't read it. Orthodoxy Chloroquine. This used to be one of my all-time favorite shows during my teenage years until Buffy suddenly started shagging the vamps. That entirely contradicts the whole point to being a cool vampire slayer, doesn't it? Like Rhodey, gag me with a spoon. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, Angel and Riley are both cringe.
And Spike.
Spike is pretty cringe,
She
but he's
hates
funny.
him.
But he's funny.
Yeah.
I mean, he's tall. He's probably the best, most interesting, funny character in the show.
Well, he ends up saving the whole...
Right. So, spoiler alert. But Angel is so cringe, and I think the only reason that we think that Buffy likes Angel is because she really can only identify with people who are immortal, who have superpowers, who aren't normies. She tries the normie route, the good guy. Riley is just so much of a goober that it's just, right.
Goob City.
She even calls him a goof in the show.
Yeah.
Riley, he's a goof, and then she ends up dating him for a season. And then Riley eventually realizes that, like, this is not going to work. Like, we're too different, right? By the way, Riley ends up in the CIA.
Yeah.
Remember?
Yeah. The real Cooter Brown. Off topic, but in y'all's years of studying cults, the occult, have you encountered much about frats, sororities? There's a lot of weird cult-like behavior there, including in one article I read, a member described the frat he was in as having an omerta.
Yeah, I mean, they are modeled on quasi-Masonic or Masonic patterns. So absolutely. A lot of the rituals of them are directly from Masonic rituals and rites. Not all of them per se. I'm sure there's varying degrees of how seriously they take their rituals and their rites. When I was looking into joining the history fraternity at my university, I mean, there was enough of a occult Masonic element to just the history society that I didn't do it. So, yes, it is there for sure. And the most obvious glaring example would be Skull and Bones, right? I mean, that's Lodge 322. It's a part of the International Freemasonic Organizations. It is a branch of the Illuminati in a literal sense. And they do the degradation ritual, the confession of your sexual sins, naked in a coffin, all that stuff, as part of the the process of bringing you into the power structure. So they know, what you're into, what your background is. They've got dirt on you. You go watch The Good Shepherd with Matt Damon, and you see the actual initiation ritual in Skull and Bones, and that's who goes into the CIA. So, you're going to get a bunch of dudes peeing on you and mud wrestling, literally, laying in a coffin, all this just ridiculous stuff. And that's what it is to be in the power structure.
I don't need friends that bad.
Go watch the movie The Skulls. Go watch Good Shepherd. Well, they're not your friends. It's just degenerate elites. Go ahead.
Okay. Mel
So-called.
has donated $50. You're awesome. Thanks for everything you do. Well, you're awesome.
Thank you, Mel. $50. Wow.
Thank you.
Fat super chat from Mel. Be sure and hit like and share if you are a fan of this series, this analysis. You can also leave us a super chat. You can also subscribe over the website. And you can also get your mojo back by one of the show's sponsors, is of course chalk.com. She Legit Mushrooms. If you put in the sponsor code, right, JAY, you get a 10% discount on your orders. Be sure and use that discount code because that is how you let chalk.com know that they are getting traffic from me. That's our sponsor. And yes, it is proven. Hundreds and hundreds of 4-star reviews to get your mojo back, dude. I seen you drop your mojo. It's laying in the middle of the road. You're weak. Go get your mojo back, bro. Where are we at?
Shining Diamond, $3. I would recommend doing an esoteric analysis of 2 animated movies from the 90s, Perfect Blue and Ghost in the Shell. They have very foreboding themes of consumerism and transhumanism.
Yep.
That is worth an review.
Yeah, obviously, everybody knows Ghost in the Shell is great. It's one of the few, aside from Mio Hayazaki, right? Everybody, even people who hate anime, admit that Ghost in the Shell and the Miyazaki or whatever his name is, his movies are good. And the Scarlett Johansson Ghost in the Shell was not that great. It was like a ripoff of Blade Runner. But yes, the original Ghost in the Shell is a classic. I've never heard of Perfect Blue. Don't know what that is, but it does sound interesting. And we do need to do, there's actually quite a few esoteric cartoon movies. Remember Gondahar, there's Fire and Ice, there's the Fantastic Planet. There's a bunch of these.
Black Cauldron, remember that one?
Well, I'm not talking about Disney. I'm talking about those really sort of trippy, artsy ones from the 70s that Heavy Metal magazine. It was all, you remember that Heavy Metal in that one?
Yeah. That's esoteric.
That one's esoteric. There's Heavy Metal, not Heavy Metal magazine. Heavy Metal the movie, Fire and Ice, Gondahar, Fantastic Planet. I'm sure you guys will know some more of these, but yeah, every decade kind of has some of those where there's a whip, there's a way. She'd never seen the cartoon Lord of the Rings, Bilbo and...
Oh, yeah. That was cute.
Chip the dishes, crack the plates. That's what Bilbo Baggins hates. And then there's Leonard Nimoy narrating. Vibranium.
$10. Buffy influenced way too many girls in my high school. They watched like one episode and the next day they show up to school wearing a Buffy t-shirt and Doc Marten boots they just bought from the emo Mecca Hot Topic lol. Yeah.
Well, now wait a minute. So Buffy dresses like she wasn't emo. She dressed like a preppy high school girl. Mm-hmm. But Faith dresses emo.
Yeah.
So when Faith shows up, she's the rebellious emo girl.
Yeah, she dresses tough.
Yeah, black leather pants, the whole lipstick where
5x5B.
5x5B. Yeah, so Elijah Dushku definitely plays the proto quasi emo girl. Spike is kind of emo.
And
Drusilla's kind of emo.
Well, it's that like steampunk.
Drusilla was kind of steampunk.
Yeah. Aesthetic.
Vampire steampunk aesthetic. But but I'm not denying there are characters that are definitely emo and goth, but not Buffy herself. She definitely plays the preppy cheerleader role. Mm-hmm. What's next? Are we done?
Is that all of them?
This is Buffy. So we'll have more analysis in part 2. And you can subscribe to Jay's analysis. And yes, by the way, to everybody, I will do the other part 2s that I owe you. I owe you guys the part 2 for subscribers on Rosemary's Baby and trafficking. And I owe a part 2 on the final of our Gospel of John series. We've lectured through the entirety of the Gospel of John, except for the last couple chapters. So that'll be up in the next few days, and then Jamie and I will do the part 2 of the Buffy analysis. We might even throw in analysis of Buffy the movie too in the part 2. We'll see. But thank you guys. Hope you enjoyed it. If you do, hit like and share and subscribe over the website. Support through getting a Rockfin account. Support through buying the She Legit supplement, the straight up mojo enhancement through chalk.com. You can buy our books, Esoteric Hollywood 1 and 2. Is that it?